Can you see the full screen of the presentation?
We can, thank you.
All right, sorry about that. Okay. Okay, this is our entire team. So you see our photos, and you have our work cell phone number, our email addresses. So you have everything here. So please make sure to reach out to your work specialist to address any DDOT concerns or questions. So we'll make sure that your issues are addressed through DDOT correctly. Okay, let's talk about DDOT initiatives and projects. Sierra?
Hello, everyone. My name is Sierra Boderick, and I serve as the Ward 8 Community Engagement Specialist. Not sure why my video is not showing. Oh, here we are. All right, so let's move on to Move DC. So Move DC is built on a framework of goals which reflect our commitment to provide excellent transportation. I would like to point out two of these goals, which would be safety. DDOT will design and manage a transportation network that offers safe and secure travel choices for all users in accordance with the Mayor Bowser's Vision Zero initiatives, which I will touch on later. Equity. DDOT will advance transportation equity by evaluating its policies, planning, community engagement, and project delivery to ensure public investments in transportation justly benefit all residents, visitors, and commuters. Please review movedc.dc.gov to review all 7 goals, as DDOT is committing to making sure that DC is a movable and sustainable city. Next slide. Vision Zero. So in 2015, Mayor Bowser launched Vision Zero to make DC roadways safe for all roadway users. The initiative takes data-driven, all-hands-on-deck approach to addressing traffic safety issues facing our communities. Visit visionzero.dc.gov. Vision Zero website has tons of information, a lot of safety tips. It shares our toolbox, and you also can sign up to receive events and reminders on when we update Vision Zero. Next slide, Kelly. So for Vision Zero, a question we often hear is, how does DDOT keep all roadway users safe? Check out our safety treatment toolbox. And also, like I said, sign up for the community account and follow Vision Zero Timely's information. Has a lot of educational information, which also provides and tells the story of what our initiative is for Vision Zero. Next slide. So I also wanted to showcase, what was in our toolbox, which would be protected space for people walking and biking, signs and signals, and reducing turn conflicts and speed management. So moving on to the Vision Zero map. Vision Zero traffic fatalities, inquiries, crashes. This dashboard can be used by the public to locate crashes that result in serious injuries or fatalities in DC. I cannot stress it for you enough to download this app, look it up. It has a plethora of information. It also can give you straightforward data on what Vision Zero consists of. Next slide. And I'll turn it over to my colleague.
Thanks, Sierra. Hello again. This is Christian again for Ward 3. So I'm going to talk about capital infrastructure projects. So we do have, as many of you know, a lot of the work that we do in the district is federally funded. So we have a large set of different projects throughout the city in all 8 wards. We're fortunate to have a publicly accessible tool on our website that shows what these projects are, where they're at per ward. So we have the link in the bottom, which really goes into detail of like what projects we do have and what the scope of those projects look like. Next slide, Kelly. We also have, as part of this toolbox, we also do have a project map locator, which is also now available. Please be aware that, if you're curious what's happening in your area, please check out the website, see what work we have is going on. And of course, there'll be more projects that populate on this website as we move forward. So the next slide just kind of gives a little bit of an example of what you can find when you click on the tab. For example, in this case, we have the Florida Avenue Northeast Streetscape and Intersection Project. This is in Ward 5. So when you click on Ward 5, this particular project will come up. As you can see, we have a short bio of what the project is about, some of the features and benefits as part of the assessment process. And some projects even have a survey to get and kind of garner public input, which is, of course, a useful tool, not only for our team, but for the project as a whole. Next slide, please. We are also fortunate, of course, with the support of Mayor Bowser and her administration and sustainability that we, in 2020, embarked on a plan to build 20 miles of protected bike lanes over 3 years. So it's a highly ambitious project. As we like to say in the district, all the easy bike lanes have been built. And so now we have to do all the hard and challenging ones to really meet that goal. But as you can see, the green lines on the map are the projects that are actively under in this fiscal year. So your feedback will be much appreciated as we get to those starting construction and moving forward, of course, as we expand the network. And of course, we would love your insight for getting just community involvement as we move forward with these phases. This slide shows kind of a running list of our overarching goals for fiscal year 23. These are a set list of locations that we have on file for our protected bike lane process. This also is very keen to our engagement strategies moving forward. So of course we attend your ANC meetings. We are always open to attend your open meetings, your transportation committee meetings to present on any of these items. And we're always doing different iterations of how we can best perform and best engage with you and your constituents. We are also looking at other ways of engagement outside of just your meetings. We're seeing if we can do mailing flyers or just doing door hangers of that kind. So we're really trying to innovate as much as we can to get as big of an impact in the community. So your feedback and your support with that would be very helpful.
All
Oh,
right.
and I think this is another colleague. Thanks, Kelly.
Yes. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about DDOT services and programs. Once again, I apologize for all these technical difficulties. All right. I promise it's not going to happen again. Okay, so this slide shows a very good overview of what we do, what kind of services we offer, and what kind of programs we offer. So I'm not going to go into every single one because later slide we will get into the details. So under traffic safety branch, so we have our popular traffic safety input program and also traffic control officer and also school crossing guards program. I just wanted to highlight the big difference between those two. So traffic control officer is the officers who are actually stationed in the middle of intersection that directs traffic, and make sure that it flows safely and correctly. And in the meantime, the school crossing guards, they are technicians who are helping to ensure that parents and students are crossing crosswalks safely. So they will be only assisting with crosswalk, not necessarily in the middle of the intersection. Under infrastructure and asset, as you may know, we are maintaining district road, sidewalk, alleys, and markings. And also we maintain bridges and tunnels and street lights. And the next phone number right there for Traffic Management Center, I want to highlight that this is a 24/7 hotline number. You can report any signal issues such as malfunctioning or traffic lights out. And I will make sure that our team will be dispatched within a few hours to investigate the issue. And under Move DC, we have DC Circulator and DC Streetcar program. As you know, this is different from WMATA bus and metro. DDOT manages circulator bus and streetcars. And also we oversee Capital Bike Share program. And as you may not know, we are also doing things that are not necessarily related to transportation, which is urban forestry. We maintain public trees and make sure that district can keep our good canopy for the District of Columbia. And also, we want to make sure that people with disability can access our infrastructure safely under our ADA program. And as you may know, we are overseeing and managing a public space. So if you want to work on public space, then you need to apply for permits. So through TOPS, Transportation Online Permitting System, you can apply for public space permits such as occupancy, like parking or construction, etc. And we have a public space inspection team who will go out and for permit violation and make sure that any construction sites are providing safe accommodations for pedestrians, such as, some construction sites are blocking sidewalk. If you see that, please let us know so that we can send our public space inspector. Under curbside management team, so we have Park DC. So that's our really good website where you can learn about what we do in terms of parking. So residents can apply for residents of parking permit and visitor parking permit as well. And one thing I want to really highlight is that DDOT, we do parking policy. However, parking enforcement is not something we offer. So if you see any parking enforcement issue, please report through 311 and DPW will be responsible for parking enforcement. So the list on the left is the list of DDOT services you can request through 311. I'm not going to go over every single thing, but I would like to highlight a few items I want you to remember. So potholes. So the numbers next to each item is the service estimate, resolution estimate time. So you see number 3, that means pothole will be addressed within 3 days. So if you see any potholes on the road, please call 311, report to 311. Our team will be addressing the pothole and fill out the pothole within 3 days. And also I want to highlight a few other things such as streetlight repair inspection and tree inspection. The numbers are pretty low, like 7 days, 5 days. That means that we will go out to investigate within those 5 or 7 days to identify the issue. So we may not be able to address the issue within those short time frame, but we will go out and make sure the next step, we will identify the next step so that the replacement or repair can be conducted. And I also highlight traffic safety input. Definitely, I'm going to go over more details in the later slide, but you see number 1. But it does sound like we're going to address every single traffic safety issue within 1 day, which is actually not possible. So this does not mean that your safety issue will be addressed within a day. However, we are using this 311 tracking system to create those tracking number so that we can track in our system. So even though your TSI is closed in the 311 system, it will remain in our DDOT system, and then it'll go through our TSI prioritization model that I'm going to talk more in the later slide. And lastly, stop sign maintenance. And one of the frustrations I often get from commissioner is that the roadway sign service resolution date is 1:30. That's a lot. I mean, what if there is a down stop sign and cars are not stopping because stop sign is broken or down or missing, right? And we understand those safety concerns. So if you see any stop sign replacement, I'm not talking about new one, I'm talking about the existing stop sign that require replacement, please let us know. And then when you submit 311, please indicate that that's for stop sign. We will address within 5 days. We say 5 days, but usually it's addressed within 48 hours. Okay, let's talk about our.
Just a second. This
Sure.
is a sign language interpreter. We're having some technical difficulties. So if you could slow down just a little bit to make sure the other interpreter can get back in here so that we can switch when we need to, that would be wonderful. She's left, so I'm here alone. So if we could just slow down just a little bit, that would help in making sure I'm accurately interpreting everything that's being said. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. I tend to speak so fast. Thank you for that reminder.
And Kelly, I am looking for her. I'm waiting for her to come in, so just speak slowly and we'll get it going. But go ahead.
Thank you. So traffic safety input, this is our one of the very popular programs in DDOT, and a lot of residents and agency commissioners are utilizing this program. So we did have very successful traffic safety investigation program launched 2021. But even though it was pretty successful, we also received some feedbacks from the community, and also we were facing some challenges. So based on the feedback we received, and we upgraded this TSI program. So now we have just launched our TSI 2.0. It's the same acronym, but it was TSI, traffic safety investigation, but now we call it traffic safety input. So the main big change from TSI 1.0 to 2.0 is that we are now using safety-centered prioritization model based on objective factors, just such as crash data or a proximity to school or high injury networks, etc. So basically, this is different from our previous version, which was basically first come, first served approach, like without any prioritization. Also, we are committing a set number of TSI every year. So we are committing 200 locations per quarter, and which means 800 locations per year. So we are committing this number because this is more sustainable and also is more equitable. And the pie chart on the right shows that TSI program is just a small portion of our very robust safety program. As you can see, all those programs in blue, they are our proactive safety programs that actually deliver long-term and transformative changes. So we come up with those ideas and locations based on our own data and our analysis. And TSI's program is the one of the programs that residents and ANC can request directly through 311. I wanted to go over a little bit more of how we do TSI 2.0. The bar chart on the left shows, so I just mentioned that we are investigating 200 locations per quarter. So this is quarter 2 of FY23. So in like early January, we released those 200 locations. So that bar chart shows how many locations we are investigating for this quarter. So the red chart, that's the number of locations we investigate each ward. So for example, Ward 5 has 40 locations, Ward 3 has 10 locations. And the blue bar, on the other hand, shows the number of TSIs. What means is that even though we say 200 location, that doesn't mean that we are only doing like one location and one TSI. So through bundling process, we are looking at multiple TSIs for one location. For example, resident may have concern about intersection, right, and safety. And then another resident may have concern about the block right next to that intersection about speeding. Then we bundle all those TSIs together for that location, which allow us to have more comprehensive review and evaluations to come up with a better safety interventions. So this quarter, 200 locations, but we are investigating 274 TSI requests. And
thank you. Kelly, just one second. Just want to let the ASL interpreters know they're both here and both on screen. So just to let them both know that we're good to go.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the pie chart on your right shows our prioritization model, because I mentioned objective factors, and you may ask, what kind of objective factors are you guys considering? This is kind of a conceptual representation of the factors we are considering. I'm not going to go over every single thing. However, as you can see, we have equity, we have vision zero, high injury network, crash pattern, and roadway characteristics. So we are considering all these objective factors take into consideration and come up with those 200 location. If you want to learn more about it, we have a very detailed 2-pagers on our website. I put the link at the bottom, the DDOT traffic safety input prioritization model. Please take a look and let us know if you have any questions. Okay, this slide shows kind of materials you can utilize for your constituents. So the flyer on the left, So I also include a link there. So this is a one-pager flyer you can share with a constituent who reach out to you about traffic safety issue. This is the first step. So this one-pager explains like step-by-step process, how to request and what to expect next. And on the right side, I just put the summary of the TSI 2.0 just to give you a quick summary. So basically, residents can submit traffic safety input through 311. But as I mentioned, the 311 request will be closed almost right away. But then the 311 message will let you learn more about the TSI 2.0 process and direct you to our dashboard so that you can track your TSI request. And then we are running those prioritization model, and then we come up with those 200 locations, and we post every quarter. So January, and the next one is April, July, October, and so on. So only those 200 locations will be investigated every quarter, and 800 locations per year. So I just mentioned TSI dashboard. So this is in my opinion, very user-friendly and very straightforward public-facing dashboard. So there are 5 tabs, as you can see. The first tab about is literally tell you about what TSI program is about. And the second tab, TSI is under investigation. This is where you can see those 200 locations that we selected. So you can use the filters for Word, ANC, even SMD for your commissioners. You can see how many locations or what locations have been selected for this quarter. And also you can search by address as well. Next. And let's say if you didn't see anything on the second tab for your SMD, then please check this last tab called TSIs for future consideration. If you already submitted 311, even though it is closed in the 311 system, it is here on our DDOT system. This is the way you can confirm that your TSI is still available on our DDOT system, and we will consider your TSI for the next quarter prioritization. So you can search again through your ANC or SMD on search by your 311 service request number or address to make sure that your request is still there for future consideration.
Thanks so much, Kelly. In addition to our Vision Zero platform, we also have a Safe Routes to School program at DDOT. They are in charge of making sure that our schools across the city have adequate safety interventions and assessment as requests come in, as we find corridors and locations of high risk. So in FY22, our Safe Routes to School safety team was able to respond to almost 190 requests across the city. And so some of these changes could include speed limit changes, crosswalk refurbishments into high visibility, flex posts, curb extensions, new pylon replacement. So it's a very holistic approach that we do to these locations. And of course, as part of Vision Zero with safety, schools are definitely a top priority as a high pedestrian area. We want to make sure that our young minds in the DC area are making sure they can get to school safe and sound. We also have an automated traffic enforcement. Our ATE program is also housed within DDOT. We have a platform and a website as well that actually lists the full locations across the city. They are also frequently changed every quarter. So new locations are assessed and the cameras are rotated as needed. What goes into some of these is including speed enforcement, red light enforcement. We have stop sign cameras. And we're also in the process of piloting some oversight vehicles and bus lane enforcement cameras as well, as part of our inventory as it expands. So this is a great tool. Rest assured, it is a meticulous process. These cameras are not cheap, of course. So we have certain locations of higher design and higher need, but to request this would go through that exact same traffic safety input process that Kelly just went over. We also have our annual safety program, or ASAP program. This is similar to a TSI, but it looks at intersections specifically. And so there's a whole set list that our traffic engineering team looks at. We are committed to about 100 locations per year. As you can see in the diagrams, we do massive transformational changes to intersections on varying degrees of need. We also have a public dashboard where the public can see where these changes are also going to be met. And so this is just another tool in our toolbox that we can use to elevate some of the high risk and high critical locations across the city. And I'll pass it over to Tanya.
I think Tanya is not a panelist. Gail, please, can you please make Tanya a panelist, please?
Kelly, is it Tanya Powell?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. She is now a panelist.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Kelly, for that. So to better serve you, this here is the UFA portal, and here you can find what's happening near you. Urban Forestry oversees all of the trees throughout the Washington, D.C. area. So some of UFA's responsibilities, they maintain and service public trees. They make sure trees are safe and healthy. And with this said, it improves our air quality. This portal also displays tree services, history of trees, tree permitting, and service requests. Next slide, please. So here we talk about our TOP system, which stands for Transportation Online Permitting System. TOPS provide a wealth of information without signing in. So this system can be challenging, and we've received mixed reviews from our community. So some say it's user-friendly, others say other. But it allows us to monitor the work that takes place in public space. So if you look in the middle, you see where it says frequent asked questions. That is one of the links that we refer residents to, because everything you need is within that area. Also, a great tool is the Top Safety Accommodation Report. And that right there, that Top Safety Accommodation Report, that's where DDOT monitors the contractors to make sure everyone is safe. Next slide, please. So here, by clicking on each of these icons, you can see what's actually taking place, what's going on, the type of work that's going on, what's actually available, when the permit expires, and so on. You would just take your cursor and click on those lines on the legend, like the orange lines, the green lines, and it'll tell you everything of what's going on. So we've received a lot of questions in regards to training. So therefore, DDOT will be hosting several training sessions, and they will be coming up soon. So we will be hosting 2 training sessions in March. There will also be 2 sessions in April and 1 session each month thereafter.
All right, and next I'll be going over the PAVE DC program and the paving plan for DDOT. So our PAVE DC program was launched in 2018 with the goal of resurfacing, repairing and restoring roadway across the district to eliminate any roads in poor condition. Since the launch of this program, we have repaved over 480 miles of roadways, over 240 miles of sidewalks, and over 1,100 alleys. And this right here is our main paving plan page with a couple of helpful tabs similar to the TSI 2.0 dashboard where commissioners can look at a couple of different important things. So right here, you can just see the overall progress of paved, completed miles of roads, sidewalk, alleys, etc. Since the program was launched. Go to the next slide, please. And right here, you can see, and again, I put the link to this in the chat. You can go to different tabs and check our progress on sidewalks, roads, alleys, etc. And using the same sorting system as the TSI 2.0 dashboard. So you can see on the right above the map, you can filter by ward, by ANC, and even by yearly paving plan. So there's a new one of those each year. And on the map, you can see red is planned and not completed. Orange is under construction and green is completed. I think light green is substantially completed and dark green is fully complete. Next slide, please. And just a couple other helpful things with Pave DC. And again, this is all on the overview page. So if you don't click on the other tabs for roads, etc., you can keep scrolling down on the overview page, and that has a lot of helpful little summaries of the work we're doing. But of course, most importantly to yourselves in your role as commissioners is notification for yourselves and your residents of when this work is going to occur. So when a road is slated to be repaved or resurfaced, etc., there will be notification emails sent to the relevant ANC commissioners a week prior to the project, as well as door hangers posted on addresses week before the project as well. And obviously the most important and visible one of these is the emergency no parking signs, which functions similar to ones for any general public space construction or occupancy permit. And those are required to be hung up along the curbside within 70 or at least 72 hours prior to the repaving. Next slide, please. Okay. Next up is Park DC. So our Park DC website is excellent. It has tons of helpful links. Mainly, the things you'd be looking for as commissioners would be helping people get RPP or visitor parking permits as well. And it also details a lot about, how to use the meters, each of the signs, what do our signs mean, especially a lot of our non-standard ones. And then just some helpful information as well about how the recent ANC redistricting, which went into effect at the beginning of this year, impacts residential parking and visitor parking. The short of it basically is that the RPP zones themselves are not changing, while the visitor parking permits zones are changing. Next slide, please. And just a little bit more about the visitor parking permit. So we are discontinuing the standard 2020 visitor pass after April 15th of this year, so just in about 2 months. After which point there are, there's a way to go ahead and get the new one, which is using the standard license plate permit available on the Park DC permit site, which again is on the main Park DC site, as well as the new temporary single print pass. And below you can see just some details of the outreach we'll be doing, which is pretty extensive to make sure our residents are aware of that. Next slide, please. And this is just a sample of the temporary pass. So it's already available right now. Functions the same as the former visiting pass, which is again being discontinued in April. So you'll have to register in the Park DC permit site, and you can go ahead and print that off. And just one further thing about Park DC. Obviously, we recently launched, I believe in the late fall, our school parking zone program. And this has already issued up to almost 400 school staff permits for teachers, administrators, and all sorts of staff. In May of this year, we're going to be doing a survey for all of the participating schools. So that'll be a great chance to coordinate with the schools in your SMDs and work with them on providing feedback to us about this program to see how we can improve it moving forward.
All right, well, I want to thank DDOT for this, and at this point we will open it up for questions. Just one second. So Minna, I don't know if you've been able to pin Patrice. She is the other ASL interpreter.
Yes, how do I do that?
You just hover over
I was
her
trying to do
name.
that earlier. Mhm.
Yeah, hover over her name. There's 3 dots in the right-hand corner. And then you just pin her to the stage
Trying to find
so you
that.
guys can see each other, because I know that
Yeah, I don't see the dots. That's the problem. I don't know. Let's see. I do not see dots.
when you hover over her name up on the,
No. I just see the
okay,
chat. I'm sorry. I'll try to keep doing that.
okay. Go to the left-hand corner and see if you see a little thumbtack. If you do, and it doesn't have, it has a slash, then try to pin that. And
Okay.
but she needs to do this one. Okay. All right. Well, continue to look at that. Patrice, you may need to come back on. I'll let you both figure that out. But participants, what we're going to do, what we normally do at this point, is ask you to raise your hand. I know that there have been some questions in the chat. I hope DDOT, if they don't mind, since you have you're a large group here, if you guys can, someone can just kind of look at the questions in the chat and help me out there. That would be great. And just answer those. So for those who would like to ask their questions out loud, I'm going to start to unmute folks. So the first question will come from the individual that signed in as 6A03. And if you could, at some point in the chat, put who you are so we can register you.
I'm Roberta Shapiro. I am the 6A03 commissioner, and I've had an enormous amount of input in the very short time I've been serving about a number of DDOT related issues. The first of which is the TSI, the revised TSI program. People are angry, for lack of a better word, at the closure of all TSIs filed before January 6th. They are confused by the dashboard, as am I. You cannot find details on the TSI. You've got to hunt through each of the different tabs to find them, and you don't know if it's a request for traffic calming or a stop sign. You can't track your own TSI. A single tab that showed the TSI, like in a spreadsheet with a number, an issue, a location, and a status, would be a much simpler and more efficacious solution. And I am getting just email after email from constituents who are concerned about TSIs. We are also concerned because the algorithm is really opaque. It's a conceptual model, but you can't tell the scoring. You can't tell how things are graded. And I come from a healthcare background, and we deal with things through a triage system. So if somebody files a TSI that is very complex and involves multiple blocks and multiple issues like raised crosswalks, traffic tables, stop signs or stoplights, et cetera, that is a different process for DDOT to analyze than somebody says the egress from my parking from my apartment building is blind, and there either needs to be a mirror or a no parking zone striped out on the side of this egress. So it seems like the quick fixes and the complex fixes should be assessed differently, because there are small problems that can be fixed very quickly, and they don't need a lot of complex analysis. And that process should, it seems to be different. The third issue is sidewalks. 6A03 is on the Hill. We have those non-historic 1983 brick sidewalks. I have a number of constituents of all ages and abilities who have been fallen and seriously have fallen, tripped on missing bulging, loose bricks. You cannot walk down the street on the hill and not find multiple in a single block, multiple dangerous areas. You have a 5-day turnaround for potholes and a 270-day turnaround for the sidewalks. I have a constituent with a shattered pelvis, a broken arm, a torn rotator cuff, a smashed face. How can these sit out there for 270 days? And how are we going to evaluate whether bricks are a safe surface in this area? And finally, I am getting a load of complaints about the school parking zones. 41 parking permits were dished out in our area. We have 3 schools in a very small area. We have 3 blocks, 3 sides of a block, a U shape, for lack of a better word, that is no parking school zone. We have elderly and young families who cannot get their kids out of a car and park, or get their groceries out of a car and park. In the meantime, adjacent to the school is a DPR parking lot that is empty. I've been taking pictures days of the week, times of the day, 1 car, 0 car, 0 car, 0 car, 1 car. And why are teachers and staff not allowed to park in the school zones during school? So I think DDOT's got to reach across agencies to come up with creative solutions to this problem. I think teachers should be allowed to park. I have total empathy for that. But the residents can't park in their own neighborhoods anymore. So I've taken a lot of time, I apologize, but it is the DDOT is top of the list in terms of emails and text messages I'm receiving. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Shapiro. I don't know, Kelly, if you want to address some of her issues. Or you want to wait to hear all the questions, or you want to talk.
Sure.
to
I think we can
Commissioner
start with
Shapiro
TSI
offline.
concern first, and then sidewalk, and then parking. So Sahar, would you like to take the TSI concern, please?
Sure. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Sahar Nabai. I'm a traffic safety manager at DDOT, and also a manager of the TSI program. I wanted to speak a little bit about your first point, Commissioner, with the triaging. Part of the reason that we did launch this program is the sheer number of TSIs that DDOT receives is in the several thousands. So it is practically impossible for DDOT, with the resources that we have, to review and address every TSI. And some of these TSIs come with very minimal information about the issue. Some of them come in the wrong category, where there is other 311 type requests that are available for those more quick fixes that you mentioned. That then we have to, our intake staff would have to review, close them, and open a new service request on behalf of the resident in the correct category to make sure they don't get delayed. We also have some duplicate requests for either the same issue, sometimes for the same location with multiple concerns. Sometimes residents have different opinions on what should be done. One person might want a speed hump, some other person might not want a speed hump. So triaging when there is an almost instant, constant flow and receiving of these TSIs is nearly impossible to be able to address everything in a comprehensive manner. So part of the reason we actually launched this was to actually take a quarter. So instead of being on a constant addressing mode, to let us review what is in our pool and come up with a work plan based on some criteria that we developed to prioritize. The reason we actually had to develop this model was we wanted to make sure that while we have thousands of these requests coming in, we don't lose sight of those important ones that are at locations that do have proven safety or equity issues. So we came up with this criteria, and we tried to capture both existing safety issues in the form of crash patterns, for example, crash history, and also potentially dangerous locations, for example, challenging geometry that could potentially result in crashes. So while I'm not claiming this model is perfect, this was our first iteration, and we tried to be as comprehensive as we could with the data that we have. We also don't have data for everything. So I just want to clarify that once a TSI is not prioritized in one quarter, it can be prioritized in the next quarter. This is just to give us a way to come up with a work plan in advance of every quarter, as opposed to just constantly working in a first come, first serve basis, first serve basis. And anything that is closed does not mean that we don't believe this is an important issue, or we do not plan to address it. We're just asking for residents to be patient with us while we're reviewing those that seem to be at higher priority locations. And as well as all these other programs that Kelly and her team presented. We have so many proactive programs. A lot of really dangerous locations are already under our radar. Someone at DDOT might be working on them. We also, if you just go to that last tab, just by looking at how many TSIs are in the system, that kind of explains why there was need to have a system in place to not have this first come, first serve approach, basically resulting in us losing sight of those higher priority locations. And when I say higher priority, this doesn't mean that other issues are not important, but we have to start somewhere. We have to develop some prioritization scheme to be able to allocate our limited resources. So I hope I explained that part. And I believe you had some questions about our dashboard not being very easy or friendly, user friendly.
Hey, Sahar,
We are,
let me
sorry.
jump in real quick before you
Yeah.
move on, because I do want to explain to the commissioner that asked the question, as well as to all the commissioners, because we know this is a common question that's come up since we have modified the process in January. And one of the things I really want to make sure that we are clear on is that, when we had TSI 1.0, the traffic safety investigations last year, what Sahar was alluding to is that we received it as really first come, first serve. So we were getting lots of requests in the thousands, and it was based on who would put their inputs in first. And as a result, those that could come in first, then we'd be working and responding to those. But it wasn't necessarily based on where the actual data was showing us where crashes were occurring, where injuries were occurring, where fatalities were occurring. Most of the inputs were for our local roads. And when we looked at the data, most of our local roads, we were not showing that that's where a lot of the unfortunate crashes and things were occurring. So what we're trying to avoid is that rush of first in, first out. We want to do it based on a prioritized method, and that's what Sahar was explaining. So ANCs, commissioners, council members, residents still will have the opportunity to put their inputs in. We will still be receiving those inputs throughout the year. Those inputs will be on a quarterly basis. We'll be go through our prioritization model. And based on that and the criteria that Sahir laid out, 800 of those will be then ultimately implemented over the year period of time. But what we also are doing is being able to focus more of our efforts also on our high injury network and a high injury corridor, where the data shows that a lot more of these injuries and crashes and fatalities have actually occurred. So we're being responsive to, one, the inputs that are coming in from residents, but we're also being responsive to where the data is showing where actually the injuries and unfortunate fatalities are occurring. So we changed the model. I know it's a little bit different from what has happened in the past, but we really feel that this is the best approach to make sure that we're being responsive to not only to the constituents and the residents and the ANCs, but also to the data where we're showing that we need to be able to make a bigger dent in reducing the number of crashes, accidents, and hopefully reduce the number of fatalities.
Thank you, Everett. I also wanted to reiterate my earlier point about the more immediate issues. There are actually many instances that we actually receive TSIs for things that we actually have an appropriate 311 category that will make sure that if there's a down sign, if there is certain type like a meter or a parking issue, there are many other 311 categories. Same for example, traffic signals. This was another issue that one of the commissioners reached out about. And we do actually have a 311 category for some of these more immediate needs. TSIs are really for situations where there is some concern that requires some traffic study to be done, for engineering recommendations to be made, not for easy or quick fixes or sometimes super I don't know, immediate needs. So I just wanted to add that to make sure that folks understand that what TSI is versus some of these other type of 311 requests that are in our system. And
Thank
if
you.
you're in doubt, you should always ask, but there's also, I believe when you go to our to 311 to put in a TSI, there's a little blurb that explains that if it's a maintenance issue or other types of requests, you're encouraged to actually use the correct category.
So I think we need to move to the question about the potholes. I know that that is obviously an issue that many commissioners have faced. So is somebody going to address why the potholes, replacing them are sidewalks, and the difference of the time when you go into the system for these repairs? Some of them are over 200 days. So I don't know, Director Lott, if you want to talk to that, but clearly Commissioner Shapiro has some major injuries that have occurred to her constituents because of them. So it would be a good question, I think, to address at this point.
Yeah, I caught the tail end of your question, but what I think I heard, and please correct me if I'm wrong, was that the length of time for, I think on our service level agreement for repairing of a sidewalk, is that what I heard?
Thank you. Yes, the potholes are 5 days. The sidewalks are 270. We've had major injuries. Children, old people like me, because, particularly on the hill with the brick sidewalks. So I think, frankly, I think fixing these brick sidewalks is Sisyphean. There are multiple problems in each block. I think it's time to reevaluate the bricks. They are not historic. They were started in 1983, but there has to be some solution to the injuries. And certainly a injured person should be more important than a pothole.
Sure. So a couple things. One, I do appreciate and I do recognize and we've had some conversations about our service level agreements just across the board. So that's something that we definitely are looking at. What I would add is that the service level agreement, that's the maximum. In most instances, it does not take 270 days for us to get out to go and repair anything. But we do give that maximum length. But we are looking at just our service level agreements in general to see about making some adjustments across the board, because we do recognize that if you see that, and if I were to see that, I would be astonished as well. Like, why does it take that long? So we're going to look at making some adjustments where we can. But what I would add, Commissioner, is that definitely for residents as commissioners, if there is a tripping hazard or hazardous hazard on the sidewalk, please report that to 311. That gets the ball rolling, and that will alert us that we need to get out there to address it. A lot of times what we're finding out is that, unfortunately, some of these instances have not been reported in the 311 system, so we don't really know about it. But we will be able to get out there. That is the record that holds us accountable to make sure that we are getting out there and to address the situation. In some instances, when it comes to the tripping hazard, we're able to get out there, within several days versus 270 days to go ahead and make that repair. And so that's, we're really aiming to make sure we're able to address the tripping hazard, address the hazardous situation, so we can remedy that, so that again, that people do have safe access and safe passage as they're traveling back and forth on our sidewalks.
Thank you.
And then with the potholes, the same thing. A lot of times on the potholes, we want to make sure, and a lot of times some of that work may not be able to be done during the winter months because of the temperatures, but we've really done a lot better job at just our paving as a whole, so we have fewer potholes that we're having to respond to. But if we have it in the 311 system, it will alert us, and that will hold us accountable to make sure we're able to respond. And like I said, we are looking at just overall service level agreements as a whole to see what adjustments we can make, because I do understand that that is alarming when you see a number like 270 days.
So, Director Lott and your team, I know that Commissioner Shapiro had a question about the school and school parking. I'm just going to ask, because we have a lot of other folks that want to ask questions, and we're at sort of the 15-minute mark to the end of the presentation. If someone can reach out to her to answer all of her questions and make sure that she is comfortable with the responses. So she is at 6A03@anc.dc.gov. So I would ask either, yourself or someone on the team, make sure that you reach out to her. Okay, we're going to move to the next question. So that is Commissioner Daniels. I'm going to unmute you. You are unmuted. Commissioner Daniels?
Hey, yes, can you hear me, Gail?
Yes.
Great, thank you. And hello, Director, and thank you for this. So I'm chair of ANC 8F and formerly with ANC 6D. I just have to point out a couple of things here because this presentation began with how DDOT works and how DDOT operates. When I was with ANC 6D for 4 years and now ANC 8F, when it comes to meeting with the community for engagement around DDOT projects, never did DDOT walk into a meeting and say, hey, we're here to collaborate with you on this project that we are proposing to install in your ANC. It was always, this is what we're going to do. We have an NOI released. And it seemed that regardless of the feedback of the NOI from the ANC or residents, DDOT proceeded with the project. Right now, ANC 8F is facing an M Street safety corridor project. And DDOT came into our meeting in January and said, this is what we're going to do. One of my colleagues blatantly asked, so regardless of what we say and what our input is, are you still going to proceed with this in June? The answer was yes. So I do have to take issue with that collaboration and that community engagement piece of that, the way that this meeting started, because that is definitely far from what I've seen as a commissioner over the years. I do also want to ask, is DDOT aware a lot of the program, the projects that you're installing, the parking enforcement component is a crucial part of those projects. So if that falls apart, the projects fall apart. Are you aware that DPW, I just spoke with one of the supervisors just a few days ago. They state that when it comes to the signage and certain project signs, that if they see a conflicting sign, they don't report it. They wait for a resident, they wait for a commissioner, they wait for someone else to report that sign. So they're not enforcing simple conflicts of signage, which is again a crucial part of the project that DDOT continues to push forward. And I just want to know why that's the case and what's being done to fix that part of the process. And if DDOT has any sort of quality assurance staff that are actively out looking for things like that. Also, I'm sorry, my last thing here is also regarding finished plans. First Street Southeast. The First Street Southeast Road Diet Project has sat unfinished for 2 years. So if someone could speak to that project and when that might be finished, because that completely also conflicts this notion that, you know, DDOT puts forward projects and actually completes the projects before moving on to the next one.
Yeah, Commissioner Edwards, and it's great to meet you. I was actually with the council member last night and his chief of staff, and they referenced 8F. And I'm happy to get out there to meet with you all. I know y'all are brand new ANC. I think y'all just had your first meeting in January, and so hopefully we'll get out there soon. You raised a couple of things, and so let me see if I can address each one of those. And I may ask for some help with the First Street Southeast Road Diet. But with the collaboration piece, DDOT is about the collaboration. We are about working with the community. You will see that we are going out and receiving and getting a lot of input from community that will inform us in terms of how we're going to either design, construct, and or build, and everything that goes thereafter with any of our projects. Now, one of the things I do have to just kind of put out there is that collaborate does not necessarily and always mean that we will take and accept the inputs that we receive and actually do what it is that maybe the ANC is asking. In some instances, we absolutely will, but in other instances, it may be that we don't for different reasons. And so we do give every ANC great weight, and every input that we receive from the ANCs or those residents that are represented by the ANC commissioners, We take that very, very, very seriously. But I think there is this misnomer that, if we put out, if an ANC commission puts out or a commission puts out a resolution, that means that's something that we as DDOT, as the agency, are supposed to do. And that's not the case. But we definitely will give all of that fair and consideration and great weight. And then there have been many instances where we have taken the resolutions or the inputs and we have incorporated that into our product. But we want to make sure that we are collaborating. We want to make sure we're out there. And so again, I hope that we will be invited and that I will be invited to come out to your commission meetings so we can actually hear from the residents. Because again, these projects the intention is for, again, improving and increasing safety for all the residents, the visitors, et cetera, and also making sure that we're doing it in an equitable manner and an equitable way. And so we do want to make sure that we are hearing from the residents and from the ANC Commission. So if you feel that has not been occurring, we want to make sure that we address and change that going forward. With the parking enforcement, I will have to talk to my colleague over at DPW, the director, and talk to him about the conflicting signs that you referenced, because I'm not sure what that is about. But as we are going out and working, and we put the signs up, and we will, put the no parking signs or the parking restriction signs. That's something that we do. And then DPW is the agency that actually does the enforcement piece. If there are some conflicting signs that are up, then please make us aware of that, because we need to make sure that we address that and get those conflicting signs down. But I will talk to DPW, and hopefully when you do invite us out to your ANC, we also can invite the DPW director out, and we can actually have that conversation about the park enforcement piece when it comes to some of those conflicting signs. And then the last thing that I believe you asked about was the First Street Road diet. And I don't have a lot of information on that, so I'm gonna ask if there's someone on the team that can maybe help out with that. I would appreciate it.
So again, in the interest of time, since it's a specific question, if Kelly, someone on your team, can make sure to reach out to Chair Daniels, actually, and in ADF about that project. That would
Definitely
be
will do.
appreciated, and we'll make sure to follow up. Okay, we're going to move. We have a few more questions for folks. Hopefully the DDOT team won't mind staying a few minutes after. We had a little late start, so hopefully. So I'm going to unmute Commissioner Hoyt, and hold on, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi, am I unmuted?
You are unmuted. Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, good afternoon. I really appreciate this training. I've learned a lot. One thing that has been popping up, I'm a new commissioner in 4A02 up in Shepherd Park. And one thing that has resurfaced again and again since I've been a commissioner are people saying that they're not getting feedback for their TSIs that they have gone to the website and posted. And some of those TSIs have to do with stop signs that are hidden by trees or obstructed by bus signs placed over them. And people have been coming to screeching halts and having accidents when they see these stop signs. So I want to know what we can do about those. There's also a big discussion going on about speed bumps. We have what are considered speed hills in our community, and we need some remediation, not to remove them, but to perhaps shave them down. And I'm wondering if that is something that DDOT would do. Those are my two concerns right now. There are many more, but I just want answers to those two. Oh, and by the way, it's likely that we would be having a meeting to discuss purely traffic and traffic related issues, because adjacent to my ANC single member district is the biggest development project in the city right now at Walter Reed. And when that project is done, some gates that were formerly enclosed by fencing would open up into streets, like 13th Street is one of them. And people are petrified that with the commercial activity that is going to come at Walter Reed, for example, there would be a Whole Foods, that there would be speeding on streets that were previously are residential streets. And so we have to think about traffic calming devices, whether they're additional speed bumps or whatever. But these are discussions that have to be had. And I reached out to the Ward 4 DDOT community liaison, Mr. Cornelius Anderson, I think. I've sent him one or two emails, and I've tried calling him. He doesn't answer his cell phone. I'm sorry to say that. But I've also sent him emails. I'm still waiting for a response from him. Thank you.
So Commissioner Hoy, if I could ask then again, maybe offline, if we can get, if you have specific locations regarding some of those stop signs that have been blocked by either trees or some of the bus signs, if we could get that information from you, I would again ask and encourage that that information has been put into 311. And it sounds like from what I heard that I believe you said that it is, but if it's not, I would definitely encourage that to happen. So that can be, again, our accountability measure for tracking purposes. But if we can maybe get with you offline to get those locations, if you have them, then we can make sure that we can get those areas addressed. You also had referenced the speed humps and I think the vertical deflection and the height. And, you know, again, as we were talking a little bit earlier about TSI 1.0, probably one of the interventions that was done the most during TSI 1.0 was the implementation or the installation of either speed tables or speed humps. Speed tables are a little lower vertical deflection. Speed humps are a higher vertical deflection. So it sounds like what you all have, and I'm very familiar with Shepherd Park and some of the streets going through Shepherd Park like Calmia, those are speed humps. And they were done specifically for one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to slow the traffic down on some of those main cut-through streets that are in Shepherd Park neighborhood, such as Calmia. Again, we have a school right there, the Shepherd Park Elementary School, and we have a lot of residents, children, and adults that are traveling back and forth on the sidewalks in that area. So we were really trying to make sure that we were able to slow traffic down, and so we did put in the speed humps along that particular area. If we do anything like lowered vertical deflection, a lot of times it doesn't have the effect that is needed, which is to be able to slow cars down. And so that was their main objective in doing that. And then with the Walter Reed, I have been working very closely with former Commissioner Steve Watley, and I just learned of his passing just a couple of days ago. But I know he was very instrumental in the work that we were doing and trying to partner and collaborate with the ongoing development of the Walter Reed campus. And so we'll continue, and again, going back to Commissioner Edwards' question about collaboration, we'll be continuing to work with the community. I know there's been some concern about the neighbors who have lived in and around Walter Reed for years and years, and then you have these new community folks that may be coming into the Walter Reed area. So we're going to be making sure that we're working with everybody in the community to try to make sure we get to a place that is going to be a place that everybody can ultimately be happy and satisfied with. It's not going to be easy, but it's something that, again, we'll be working with residents, with the community to make sure that we can try to accommodate the concerns that have been raised and addressed. And so if that's something that also maybe we can get from you offline, some of the specific concerns that you've identified, and then we can try to work with you and see about working with the community and working with Walter Reed as that development continues to move forward.
Can I ask then if you would be willing, or someone from your office, to come to a meeting that Commissioner Edwards and I are thinking of hosting, just to speak about traffic related stuff, because we honestly don't have all the answers.
Sure.
And we'd love to hear from you, and for you to hear from our residents what concerns them and how we can get to a place where, I know we can't please everyone, but to get to a place of mutual respect and agreement.
Sure. No, absolutely. We're happy to come out. I'm happy to come out. So if you can let us know a few dates, and we'll see if those dates work, and we'll figure something out to find a date that works to get me out and get the team out.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoyt. So the time is 5 o'clock. If the director doesn't mind and the team, we just have 2 more questions. And then if you have not raised your hand at this point, if you have a question, please put it in the chat. So we're going to move to Commissioner Kornoitz. I don't think I pronounced that correctly, and I do apologize. So if you could pronounce your name correctly, I would appreciate it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, it's Corniotis, but most people call me Commissioner CC, which is probably what I should have put. It's much easier.
No problem.
I'm the commissioner of 4D04, and actually the 4D single member area is made up of 8 new commissioners. My predecessor was very passionate, I should say, about submitting TSIs, etc. And I was just wondering, I have a couple of very relatively quick questions. One is, with his submission of, as I said, a number of these TSI requests, I live on a one-way, relatively short one-way street. And for whatever reason, a speed bump was installed on this one-way street, and I was wondering what the process would be potentially of either shaving it down, and I believe this was addressed in the prior question, or actually removed, because I've heard a number of complaints from my constituents or my neighbors on our street specifically. The second question is, I've heard a number of requests from my constituents in terms of permeable pavers being installed in some of the alleyways that are especially beat up by either, so, like these alleys are really not, like, to drive through them is relatively unsafe. So what is the process in terms of requesting repaving of the alley, specifically potentially with permeable pavers? And then my final question involves the Southern Baptist Rock Church between, I believe it's 9th and Kansas. But basically, there's a speed camera there where a number of my constituents have been ticketed, where they literally, you have to count to the number 10 and then go. And from my understanding, that's one of the rare speed cameras where that's the case. And so is there a process to potentially reassess the need for that speed camera in that location specifically? Thank you.
Commissioner Cece, you said you're 4D04. I used to be the commissioner 4D05, so I'm very familiar with your whole area, and I think I even know the previous 2 commissioners from 4D04. So you referenced that the previous commissioner was very passionate about the TSIs, and it sounds like what I'm hearing from that is that he or she was putting in a lot of TSI requests, and that kind of goes back to my earlier point when I first came on. Is that, we moved from TSI 1.0 to TSI 2.0 because it really was the first in, first out. And so, individuals could go and put a lot of requests in. You had some neighborhoods, some communities, and some commissioners that may not have been as active. And so they didn't get those requests, or we didn't get over to those particular areas or neighborhoods because those commissioners or those individuals, those residents were putting them in. So that's kind of the reason why we moved from TSI 1.0 to TSI 2.0. But it still does allow us to be responsive. You asked again about the speed hump and either removal or the shaving down. And what I would say to you, and it's similar to going back to Commissioner Hoyt, is that we put those up for a reason and for a purpose, and that was to slow traffic down. when we did our investigations and looked at the roadway, determined that, yeah, cars are speeding and traveling at a high rate of speed. This is one of the safest ways that we can install some type of deflection, vertical deflection, to try to eliminate and prevent that. We know that some residents, truly appreciate it and really enjoy and really love having that because it does calm traffic down and does slow them down. But we also know that some residents are not as excited about them for lots of different reasons. And they've often given us the reason of the noise. In some instances, they said it may cause vibrations in their homes. At the end of the day, we just want to make sure that we're providing safe passage and that we're able to slow traffic down on our local roads. And again, the majority of the work that we did last year when it comes to TSI 1.0, the majority of those were new speed hump or new speed table requests that we were installing. So we're happy to, have some conversations. To be honest, though, the removal of the speed hump or the shaving down of it, again, it would not be beneficial because it's not going to have the intended effect that you would want, which is to be able to slow traffic down, and that's our main objective. On the permeable pavers, I would ask, I think Andrew Kaufman is on. He may be able to talk a little bit about our paving for our alleyways and the type of materials that they use and why they may use permeable paving in some versus others. Andrew, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, permeable pavers are definitely a treatment that's used in our alleyways and actually most commonly done in Ward 4 because that is the area of the city that kind of benefits the most from them because all of the pollution from the that watershed goes into Piney Branch, which it's a special like combined sewer overflow district where the sewers were kind of designed that way from the 100 years ago. So yeah, that's definitely an area that or a possibility that can be done for your alley. Although I'm not actually the alley person when it comes to these are called green alleys. There's a whole other team at DDOT that does that. My team, asset management, does basically does regular alleys. And we have a whole system that goes through the whole city. We rate every alley. We do a survey every few years, and we rate every alley. And we pick the worst ones, and we take the amount of money that we've been given, for that year, and we basically create an alley gating plan. And if we see an alley that is a good candidate or that could be a good candidate, we'll often refer it to the Green Alley team. But although usually it works the other way around, the Green Alley team has a bunch of candidates already kind of worked out. They've got their own plan and they've got everything kind of set up to in much the way we work, but with just green alleys. So yeah, that's definitely a possibility. You can shoot me an email and I can get your alley checked on and see if it's on the plan. And I won't. I mean, I'll forward it to the people that have all that information, and we can all have just an offline discussion on that. So yeah, I'm happy to help.
And then
Thanks, Andrew. That would be great. If you could just put your email in the chat so that Commissioner CC has it, and also who on the green team would be great.
Sure.
Who they could contact. I know you said they'll contact them, but commissioners
Yeah,
like to be
sure.
proactive. Director Lott knows that, so that would be very helpful. All right, we're going to take the last question because it is late. Everyone's.
I would like to respond to CC's.
Oh, go ahead.
Last thing was on the speed camera at 9th in Kansas.
Oh,
And
thank you,
I'll be
Director.
very quick on that. Commissioner CC, that's an area that has been under scrutiny for many years now. Unfortunately, we put that speed camera in several years ago after a young person was ultimately struck at that location and unfortunately killed at that location. So it was at the request of the community, at the request of the church that's right adjacent to that particular area. What I can tell you is that we have seen compliance happening in that location. And we can share this data with you. If you see the data from just a year ago where we may have had peaks where 100 people may have gotten tickets. I'm using this as a very fluid example. Now you're showing where we only have maybe 10 people at that location that are getting citations. So we know that compliance is happening. That means people are stopping at the stop sign. People are waiting until they come to a complete stop and then proceeding to go through. And that's ultimately what we're trying to achieve. And so that location is there. I've been up there on probably 3 or 4 different occasions with the council member and with the community. But that is a place where we have known to see people just actually kind of rolling through the stop sign, which can cause serious conflicts with our most vulnerable users, which are pedestrians and cyclists.
Thank you. No, thank you. That's great. Okay. As I was saying, it's getting to the bewitching hour, so we want to sort of finish this up. We have one last question. Hopefully, it will be a quick one. Commissioner Kramer, you are unmuted. Hello, are you there? Commissioner Kramer? Okay. Well, I just want to thank Kelly, Director Lott, your team for today's training. It was very insightful. And for the commissioners that are on, this training was recorded. And so Kelly, I appreciate you sending over the slide deck. That will be great. We'll upload that as well. But we will be placing the recording on our YouTube channel with all the rest of our trainings. So for any of your commissioners who missed it, they can go ahead and check it out on YouTube. So again, on behalf of the OANC, I just want to thank everyone at DDOT for this presentation. And we look forward to TOPS training. Can't wait. Yay. Good. Yes, see TOPS on top of my head. But anyway, we look forward to that and have a great evening, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate all the work y'all are doing. Thank you so much.
Take care now.